What if I told you that Jailhouse Rock almost sent Elvis to the hospital? That he never again had the courage to watch this film? And that the famous prison scene became, in practice, the very first music video in rock history? If you love the King, stay with me until the end, because today we're going deep into the real behind the scenes of Jailhouse Rock. In 1957, Elvis Presley was living one of the most intense and transformative chapters of his entire life. He was only 22 years old, yet he had already triggered a cultural revolution that frightened conservative audiences and captivated millions of young people. Radio, television, and live performances were never the same after Elvis appeared with his vibrant voice and a style of movement that blended boldness with pure natural instinct. At that moment, he was the most talked about artist in the country, and because of that, Hollywood became the next inevitable step. Elvis's first two film experiences, Love Me Tender and Loving You, had already proven a powerful combination: massive box office success and fans crowding every movie theater that showed his name. Elvis was proving he wasn't just a massively popular singer, he was a complete entertainment force, and the major studios knew it. MGM, one of Hollywood's giants, saw the opportunity to shape that young man from Tupelo, Mississippi, into a star on the level of the biggest names in film history. That commercial and strategic interest paved the way for Jailhouse Rock.
But it wasn't only the studio that wanted Elvis. Elvis wanted the film too. He wanted to be taken seriously as an actor. He wanted to expand his talents. And he understood that staying in the film industry could solidify his career far beyond music. Cinema would allow him to become a lasting part of the American imagination. Not just a passing figure of rock, but someone who could stand alongside Hollywood's great stars. It was a natural extension of his ambition and his artistic curiosity. Colonel Parker, his manager, had a practical and relentless vision for this new phase. Parker understood that cinema could multiply profits and turn Elvis into an even bigger brand. To him, each film was a potential product: soundtracks, merchandise, tickets, royalties. So Parker negotiated an extremely advantageous contract with substantial financial guarantees and a share of the profits, something very rare for such a young artist at the time. Elvis would earn not only for his role, but also for the songs performed in the film, which made Jailhouse Rock an artistic, commercial, and strategic opportunity all at once. But there was more. The main character of Jailhouse Rock, Vince Everett, was completely different from the kind of role a pop singer would typically play in that era. Vince wasn't a flawless hero. He was aggressive, proud, troubled, and sometimes even unpleasant. A character with deep human flaws, an anti-hero. And that attracted Elvis. He was tired of being molded into an innocent figure meant to please the public. He wanted characters that allowed emotional exploration, intensity, real drama, and Jailhouse Rock offered exactly that.
The script also carried a layer that resonated with Elvis almost prophetically: the conflict with the music industry. In the film, Vince Everett faces unfair record labels, manipulated contracts, and financial exploitation, themes that Elvis himself would face more and more deeply as his career advanced. It's as if Jailhouse Rock allowed him to portray a fictional version of what he feared could happen in real life. Another important point is that Jailhouse Rock would be the first film in which Elvis appeared officially as the absolute protagonist, with his name stamped right at the beginning like a true Hollywood star. This carried immense symbolic value. He was no longer the singer invited to appear in a film, nor the newcomer who had to prove himself before receiving prominence. Here, he would be presented to the public as a legitimate leading man, with all the responsibility that comes with it. It's also important to remember that Jailhouse Rock was, at that moment, an opportunity for Elvis to challenge prejudice. Many critics still doubted his talent as an actor. Some believed he was just a temporary product of the moment. Taking part in a more daring film with more adult themes and a darker tone was a way to silence these doubts.
He wanted to show he could be more than a youth phenomenon. He wanted to prove he had depth.
And finally, there was pure artistic instinct. Elvis was always an instinctive performer. He respected scripts, but he also liked to improvise, to feel the music, to explore movements and expressions that went beyond what was planned. Jailhouse Rock, especially its central musical scene, allowed exactly that. It was a chance to leave his creative mark on something bigger, something that could become a symbol, and it did. In summary, Elvis made Jailhouse Rock because the film brought together everything he sought at that point in his career: professional evolution, artistic recognition, international projection, a strong contract, creative freedom, and the opportunity to show the world that his talent had no limits. It was the right moment, the right story, and the perfect opportunity to prove that Elvis Presley wasn't just the king of rock. He was a complete artist, ready to conquer cinema with the same force with which he conquered music. The behind-the-scenes of Jailhouse Rock form a story just as intense as the film itself. And the deeper you go, the clearer it becomes that behind Elvis's confidence and talent was a young man dealing with enormous pressure, nearly tragic setbacks, and a filming environment that mixed brilliance, tension, and human fragility. The intense atmosphere started even before the cameras rolled. The script for Jailhouse Rock was written by Nedrick Young, a brilliant screenwriter who faced a serious problem. He had been blacklisted in Hollywood, accused of political sympathies considered dangerous at the time. This made the project begin under caution and discretion. For MGM, working with a blacklisted writer was a risk. For Elvis, it was a silent challenge, to star in a film built on a script that many in the industry viewed with suspicion. This technical detail created a sense of tension that hung over the entire production. Another pressure on the set was the speed of the schedule. Filming took place in just over a month, from mid-May to mid-June of 1957. It was a tight schedule, typical for the era, but especially demanding for someone who was simultaneously recording music, appearing on shows, and dealing with a level of fame almost unheard of. Elvis's time was fought over by everyone, and the daily routine was intense. He had to learn lines, rehearse choreography, refine performances, and still maintain a flawless appearance for the camera. One of the most dramatic behind-the-scenes moments happened during the recording of the famous Jailhouse Rock choreography, which, ironically, was the very first scene filmed. Choreographer Alex Romero had prepared traditional steps aligned with MGM's musical style. But Elvis didn't feel natural in that structure. He wanted something more spontaneous, more visceral, more him. After watching Romero demonstrate the routine, Elvis asked for freedom to move the way he felt the music. That became the essence of the scene, an explosive, fluid performance that many consider the embryo of the modern music video. But that same scene nearly ended in tragedy. During one take, one of Elvis's dental caps came loose, slipped down his throat, and ended up in his lung. He had to be rushed to the hospital, where he stayed overnight under observation. It was a serious and delicate situation that could have ended very badly. Yet Elvis returned to the set the very next day, without showing weakness or asking for an extended break. This episode reveals the mixture of professionalism and bravery that fans don't often see behind the spotlight. Beyond the technical and physical challenges, the atmosphere on set included personal tension. Actor Mickey Shaughnessy, who played Hunk Houghton, had a comedy routine in which he mocked Elvis. The studio cast him anyway, perhaps unaware of how this would affect their dynamic. Although there are no records of direct conflict, their relationship lacked warmth. For a 22-year-old surrounded by Hollywood veterans and under immense pressure, that silent tension could be deeply uncomfortable. But nothing in the behind-the-scenes compares to the emotional impact of the tragedy involving Judy Tyler, the actress who played Peggy Van Alden, Elvis's romantic interest in the film. Judy was only 24 and rising fast in her career when filming wrapped. Days later, she and her husband died in a car accident. Elvis was devastated. People close to him said he isolated himself for hours, inconsolable. The pain was so profound that he never watched the film again. That gives the movie an emotional weight few people know. For the public, it was a classic in the making. For Elvis, it became a painful reminder tied to the loss of someone he admired. Another challenge was the film's tone itself. The story dealt with themes unusual for musicals at the time: imprisonment, aggression, rebellion, and exploitation in the music industry. The darker tone required a more serious and mature performance from Elvis, adding emotional pressure. He couldn't simply rely on his natural stage charisma. He had to deliver believable drama, and he knew it. Combined with the speed of filming and physical demands, this turned the set into a space of constant creative tension. Improvisation was also constant. Elvis, guided by instinct, often adjusted lines, posture, and expressions, seeking truth in every moment. Sometimes he faced resistance, other times he gained complete creative freedom, as happened with the main musical number. When we look at all these behind-the-scenes elements together, the blacklisted writer, the rushed schedule, the near-fatal accident, the tension among actors, the tragedy involving Judy Tyler, the emotional weight of the role, and the search for authenticity, it becomes clear that Jailhouse Rock wasn't just a movie, it was a proving ground. A moment of artistic and personal transformation for a young man who, despite fame, was still discovering himself inside Hollywood's machinery. The behind-the-scenes reveal a human side of Elvis rarely highlighted: dedication, vulnerability, resilience, and a stubborn kind of courage. Each detail, each difficulty overcome, helped transform the film into a work that still echoes in the hearts of fans as a symbol of the King's raw power and intensity. When Jailhouse Rock reached the public in 1957, no one imagined that a film made in just over a month would have such a lasting impact. At that moment, Elvis was already a youth idol, but he was also a constant target of conservative media, which saw him as a threat to the morals of the era. That directly influenced how the film was received, and that's where things get even more interesting. At its release, critics were divided. Many felt uncomfortable with the story's aggressive tone, the rebellious behavior of Vince Everett, and the unglamorous portrait of the entertainment world. Some critics believed Elvis was going too far, showing a side of rock and roll that challenged norms. To them, Jailhouse Rock wasn't just a musical, it was a cultural statement, and for many adults, that was shocking. On the other hand, some critics quickly recognized something special in the film. They saw Elvis's explosive energy, the authenticity of his performance, and the bravery of tackling themes rarely seen in Hollywood musicals. The story dealt with artistic exploitation, injustice, fame, downfall, pride, and redemption. It was a musical, but a musical with a raw soul. Regardless of critics' opinions, the audience reacted strongly. The film was a success. It easily surpassed its budget and cemented Elvis as a true movie star, not just a singer who acted. For the first time, his name appeared as the absolute lead, and the audience embraced it. He wasn't just a singer in films, he was a cinematic figure. But the most important part lies in the legacy that grew over time, a legacy that only strengthened with the years. The prison scene, where Elvis performs Jailhouse Rock with unrestrained energy, became a cultural landmark. Many music and film scholars consider it the birth of the modern music video, long before MTV existed. In that moment, Elvis wasn't just singing, he was moving, acting, and visually communicating in a way that anticipated the entire language of future music videos. The film also gained historic recognition. Over the decades, it stopped being viewed as a trendy movie and became understood as a fundamental piece of American cultural history. The spontaneity of Elvis's movements, his improvisation, and his portrayal of a morally ambiguous character led scholars to see Jailhouse Rock as a portrait of the rebellious spirit of the 1950s. The emotional legacy is also profound. The tragedy involving Judy Tyler made the film a sensitive point in Elvis's life. He never watched it again, and that alone gave the film a melancholic, almost sacred aura.
For fans, Jailhouse Rock became a living memory of artistic rise intertwined with human fragility. Time, however, is the ultimate judge. Decades later, Jailhouse Rock remains one of the most studied, referenced, and celebrated films in Elvis's filmography. It transcended generations, recognized not only by those who lived through the 1950s, but also by younger fans discovering Elvis for the first time, often through that iconic prison dance. The film became a symbol of rebellion, innovation, and authenticity, traits that define Elvis Presley to this day.
And why does it still matter? Because Jailhouse Rock is more than a film. It is a cultural document, a moving portrait of an artist at his creative peak, discovering his identity, breaking boundaries, and leaving his mark on a world still being shaped. It proves that Elvis wasn't just the king of rock, he was a complete artist who influenced cinema, music, dance, fashion, and even the visual language of generations to come. For fans, the film remains relevant because it shows Elvis at a moment when he was at his most alive as an artist, raw, bold, brilliant, and vulnerable. He was discovering his own power. And every time someone revisits this film, it's as if that discovery happens all over again. That's what makes Jailhouse Rock endure. It captures the essence of young Elvis, the man who didn't yet know the size of the legend he was becoming, but already carried the strength and magnetism of someone destined to change the world.
And if you've made it this far, you can already feel that Jailhouse Rock isn't just a chapter in Elvis Presley's career, it's a milestone that continues to echo through culture, music, and the hearts of every fan of the King. Every detail, every curiosity, every behind-the-scenes moment reminds us why Elvis remains more alive than ever. And now, I want to invite you to continue this journey with me. If you love Elvis, if this story moved you or gave you a new perspective on the film, then subscribe to the channel because here we explore the life, the art, and the mysteries that made Elvis eternal. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any new content. There's a lot of amazing stuff coming, and I want you with me every step of the way. Don't forget to like this video because it helps the channel grow and helps more fans of the King find this content. And if you know someone who also loves Elvis, someone who feels these stories the way we do, share this video. Spread the memory, spread the passion. After all, Elvis has always been and will always be about connection, energy, and emotion. Thank you so much for watching.